Good morning, everybody, and welcome again to another one of the Alliance for Action's webinar series and our online series that we're doing here as we all kind of navigate through this crazy time. I'm Chris Hartman with the Alliance for Action. Thank you once again. Just wanted to get a couple of quick techie things out of the way for the GoToWebinar control panel. So on the right-hand side in that control panel, you have a couple of different options. During the conversation with John Rotolo and Jerry Keenan today, definitely want to encourage you to ask any questions as they go through their conversation. So if you have questions for John and for Jerry, please type that into the question section in the GoToWebinar control panel. Myself, along with Lynn Swalje and Penny Grasso, all three of us are on the line. We're going to be monitoring those questions and we're going to try to pass them along to Jerry and John as the conversation goes on. If you run into more of like a techie issue, you're having like a sound problem or something, type that into the chat. And then Penny and I will be able to kind of see what's going on in there, and hopefully we can help you. Usually we can fix those things snap of a finger. There's a couple of files in the handout section of your GoToWebinar control panel. They are PDF files. There's a pre-registration list. We're trying to encourage as much digital networking as we can. And if you would like to talk with one of your fellow attendees on the webinar, just reach out to Jerry Keenan or myself afterwards. We'd be happy to try to get a digital handshake going. There's also information on our sponsors in that handout section as well. So without further ado, I'll pass it over to Jerry Keenan. It's good to see everybody virtually, and we'll be talking soon.
Well, thanks, Chris. Good morning, everyone. I'm Jerry Keenan, the Executive Vice President of the New Jersey Alliance for Action. Thanks for joining us today for this special webinar and special chat with Passaic Valley Sewerage Commission Chief Engineer John Rotolo. Before we get started, let me say thank you to our sponsors for making today possible. AECOM, Imagine It Delivered. AECOM designs, builds, finances, and operates infrastructure assets for governments, businesses, and organizations in more than 150 countries. AECOM's work is transformative, differentiated, and vital. Hewitt, Mass Electric, and Jet Industries. Jobs well done. As a Fortune 500 construction and engineering leader, Hewitt's flexibility gives its clients the best value they deserve. And Passaic, we know how. Passaic provides creative solutions for complex wastewater projects in the New York metropolitan area. Passaic has successfully worked with a multitude of regional government agencies on virtually all types of wastewater projects, each with its own challenges. The Passaic Valley Sewerage Commission has a simple goal, and that's to alleviate pollution in the Passaic Valley Sewerage District. It serves about 1.5 million residents in 48 municipalities throughout Bergen, Essex, Hudson, Passaic, and Union counties. Its main interceptor begins in Patterson and runs 22 miles until it reaches Newark, where it processes over 300 million gallons of wastewater every day. It's the largest sewage treatment facility in New Jersey and also the 5th largest in the entire country. The PVSC also serves 2 million residents through its trucked-in liquid waste program, which includes 11 states from Maine to Virginia. The PVSC plant is spread out over 140 acres. It contains 48 buildings and a 1-mile-long underground utility tunnel, which includes complex industrial processing equipment, electrical equipment, and miles of electrical conduits. The Passaic Valley Sewerage Commission Chief Engineer is John Rotolo. He's charged with making sure everything runs smoothly, efficiently, and safely. He's also been the key person running the Commission's ongoing $1 billion capital program. Now, that capital program, while always important, is more critical than ever as we look to build back New Jersey economically from the coronavirus pandemic. John, thank you so much for joining us here today.
Good morning, Jerry.
John, why don't you start out by telling us what's happening right now at the Passaic Valley Sewerage Commission these days?
So, Jerry, temporarily because of the coronavirus, we've halted all construction activities. We started maybe a week and a half ago to bring contractors back to the site. We have a phased-in approach, and we'd like to get all contractors back to work at PVSC by June 6th. We're working with the contractors to make sure that they implement safety plans for themselves not only protect their own personnel, but to protect the PVSC personnel. So hopefully by June 1st, all construction activities will be back in service at PVSC.
Oh, well, that's terrific. And it's, like I said, it's $1 billion we're talking about over the next 5 years. You and the PVC are cleaning the environment and putting huge dollars into the economy. So it's terrific news that you guys will be back up and running on June 1st. Why don't you tell us a little bit about what projects, well, we'll have to take a break, but we'll be coming back on the 1st.
Well, mainly our resiliency projects. So we've already started the flood wall, stormwater pump station, and stormwater collection system project. We remobilized that contractor, and he's been on site for 2 weeks already. Next week, we're going to bring in 3 or 4 more contractors that are painting our primary clarifiers or working on miscellaneous projects in the plant. And then go ahead. No, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I just want to point out to our viewers that if you do have a question, we will be taking questions from our audience today. So as Chris said, just put it in, type it into the questions box. But we've worked, the Alliance for Action and the PVSC, John, have worked together particularly with you, for many, many years. We're thrilled to see so much work coming out of your office. You're going to be talking about a lot. How will people go about getting a piece of this action? People on this call today and this show, they're looking to do work with the PVSC. How do they do that?
Yes, so I'd like to go through how PVSC conducts business, because we want to encourage contractors and consultants. We're always looking for good contractors and consultants. That's why I do these webinars, Jerry. I want the competition, and we've been getting good competition. The contractors are doing a great job for us. So the way we conduct business, right? So we develop our capital plan, and we typically retain professionals to help us put together plans and specifications that we will put publicly out to bid to retain contractors. So there's 2 parts to that. One is to retain a contractor. The second is to retain professionals. So to retain contractors, if you'd like to get work at PVSC, what we do is we publicly advertise all of our contracts that are over $40,000 in the major newspapers and on PVSC's webpage. Most of our contracts, we hold a pre-bid walkthrough. So we encourage contractors, although they're not mandatory, we encourage contractors to come to the site. They may have questions. We show them around the facility. It's really important that you do that, and we encourage that. We award the contracts to the lowest responsible bidder in accordance with local public contracts law. That's how we retain contractors. To retain professional services, we do it in 2 ways. One is we issue RFPs, or we have an on-call consulting contract where we pre-qualified consultants. And the way we advertise this is usually in either the newspaper or on our web page. And we use a qualification-based selection process to retain our consultants to assist us in preparing plans and specifications for these large capital projects.
Tell us now about your capital plan.
Okay, so I want to go into a couple capital plans. Our capital plan is broken down into 3 types of contracts. We have Superstorm Sandy related resiliency projects. We have our standard capital program projects, and then we have our reoccurring O&M type contracts that we put out. So to go into our resiliency contracts, I'll talk about what we currently have contractors on and construction that's starting. It's around $300 million currently that we have committed to construct the flood wall, the stormwater pump station, collection system, improvements to our motor control centers, and miscellaneous project worksheets contracts to clean up any work damage. We still have a couple pieces of work, some work left to clean up what was damaged due to Superstorm Sandy. As far as new work that we have under the resiliency program that is either on the street now or will be shortly on the street that you want to keep your eye out, I'll list the contract number and tell you what the contract name is. This way you can either go to the newspaper or Dodge reports or our PBSC webpage to get some information on this if you're interested in bidding on it. So we have contract B40, which is to construct a 34 megawatt power plant. That contract is, we're pre-qualifying contractors, which in the next 30 days, we're going to advertise to pre-qualify contractors. So that's B40. Contract B206 is our Advanced Electric 1 project. That's in a 60% design phase at this point. As soon as we get approval from the DEP to move forward, we'll advertise that project. We have the Advanced Electric 2 project. That's a request for qualification, request for proposals that is currently on the street now, and it's advertised on our webpage if any consultants are interested in that. We had our pre-bid walkthrough. I guess it wasn't a walkthrough, it was really a webinar a couple days ago, but if you're still interested, you can pick up that RFQ, RFP, look at it, and maybe we can make arrangements to share the PowerPoint presentation with you. And then as part of the resiliency project, the final one, it'll be out a couple of years, is the plant-wide site improvements. If you could imagine, we're going to basically tear up the whole facility, and at the end, we're going to have one contractor come in, clean up all the site, replant everything, repave the whole road so that when we're done, it looks back to normal. So that's the resiliency contracts. Let me talk about our normal capital upgrade program. We have some current contracts going on that I'll share with you. We have the old sludge storage project, the primary clarifier upgrades, the RAS screw pump replacement, the Phase 5 sewer cleaning contracts, and the decant rehabilitation projects. The new work that's coming out, I'm only going to list a couple of the larger projects. We have many, and I could talk about this for the next hour, and I don't want to take up all your time doing that. So I just want to highlight some of the larger projects. So right on the street now, we have the contract B53, which is the headworks upgrade. That's quite a large project. I don't recall when the pre-bid walkthrough is, but if you go on our webpage, you can read it. It'll give you all the information on it. We have contract B103, which is the rehabilitation of the Wallington pump station that will be out on the street shortly. Contract B180, vehicle maintenance upgrades, again, and within another month or two, that'll be on the street also. Contract B182, which is the Phase 5 branch interceptor sewer cleaning project. And contract B202, which is rehabilitation of our outfall piping. This is current work that's going to be going out on the street within the next 3 days.
3 days, is that what you said?
I mean, 30 days, I'm sorry.
30
yes,
days?
Thanks for correcting me, Jerry. Yeah, that happens.
See, I'm listening to you, John. I'm listening.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I'm looking off to my side. The cat's down in the basement where he's distracting me, standing on a chair. If you see a cat fly across the street, you know why. And then the third type of contract that we have is our reoccurring O&M contracts. And what these are, again, we advertise publicly and on our webpage. We have one or 2 year contracts that are reoccurring contracts. These are for supplies, parts, chemicals, and task order type contracts. That's our third type of contract. And these three contracts combined make up our capital plan.
Okay, well, tell us a little bit more about, you mentioned the headworks upgrade. You said that was quite large. What exactly does that entail?
That entails, so that's the first facility when the sewage enters the plants. It's a written screenings facility, and the facility is quite old, and it's basically going to be to take the top of the building off, extend the bar screens, build a larger type building, build a service building off to the side of that facility, and make improvements to our grit channels.
Well, that sounds, once that project begins, how long does that take to complete? And when you're doing that, John, is that something that one contractor comes in and you have a GC for that, or you're bringing in many subcontractors? How does that work?
So we would have a GC, that's who we would hold a contract with. Obviously, they would have subcontractors, and it's anticipated to be a 5-year project. That's the construction duration.
Okay. How about, you mentioned the Wallington pump station. Tell us a little bit more about that.
So pretty much that facility hasn't been upgraded in years. It's a complete rehabilitation of the Wallington pump station. It's to replace all the pumps, all the electric gear, the generator, improvements to the wet well. And that project, I believe, is a 2 to 3 year project also.
Okay. I do have a question that came in from Fidel Gianni. Fidel asked, how do they get invited to be able to find bid packages to bid on?
Well, as I mentioned, that they're publicly advertised and they're welcome to go on our webpage at pvsc.com, and we list all of our bids and RFQ, RFPs.
Okay. What is the PVSC doing right now to ensure construction site safety?
So, as I mentioned before, we're working with the contractors, and we think of contractors as a team member, right, as part of PVSC's team. So we asked each contractor, as part of our continuation of plant operations, to put a COVID-19 work plan together. So each contractor, before they're allowed back on the site, has to put the COVID-19 work plan together. And PVSC has a work plan also with a checklist. So we synchronized the two plans to make sure that both the contractor's personnel is safe and PVSC personnel is safe. And a couple things that are on these plans that are critical to maintaining safety on the site is that, you know, we limit access to the PVSC facilities. So, right, contractors work in the area where they need to work, and PVSC personnel work where they are limited to work. The contractor has to be self-sufficient. Typically, we allow the contractor to use our restrooms and, or, you know, the catering trucks on site. We can't do that any longer. So now the contractors are going to have to be self-sufficient. They're going to have to provide their own porta-johns, wash stations. They'll have to bring in their own meals. They won't have access to the catering trucks. Also, all meetings on site will be done via Zoom or Microsoft products somehow. We're not going to have meetings where many people congregate together. And obviously, we're going to maintain the 6-foot rule. Everybody should keep apart. Face masks and any other PPE that's needed to maintain safety. We're also doing video training, because to get on PVSC site, everybody has to take the site safety training, but now we're doing it video where they can do it online so that we don't have to bring them to the training center. So these are the couple things that we're working with the contractors, and the contractors that we had come back on site, they did an excellent job. They were all organized, very professional, and it's working out well, surprisingly well. I didn't think it was going to go that smoothly, but it is. It's going smoothly. Knock wood. So those are the things we're doing.
Well, that's great. I guess the contractors and everyone on site, they're all taking the coronavirus situation seriously, and very happy to see so much of your construction has continued, and the stuff that had stopped that is restarting. So basically, I think they don't want to blow it. You know, they'll follow the rules in order to keep working, which is a smart idea. Now, you mentioned the 3 categories: the resiliency, the normal capital, and your O&M project contracts. How does that break down as far as dollar-wise? You have $1 billion. I believe you said the resiliency projects is what, $300 million?
Well, currently obligated $300 million. So let's the resiliency is about $500 million. The remaining 500 is the our normal capital, which falls into the other 2 categories, either O&M or our standard capital projects.
So you did mention, and I was trying to write these down as you were going, but you had the 34 megawatt power plant. Tell us a little bit. I'd like to have you speak about each of these projects a little more, if I can.
Sure, no problem. So as part of our resiliency program, during Superstorm Sandy, we lost power to the facility, so we can't allow that to happen again. So we need to build a power plant that'll provide complete backup to the facility should we lose power from the grid again. And to do that, we needed to design and build a 34 megawatt power plant. To date, we have pre-procured the turbines. We've purchased 3 gas turbines, approximately 17 megawatts each. There'll be 2 operational, 1 standby. and the power plant will be state-of-the-art, clean energy efficient power plant to provide backup power for the PVSC. One thing we're doing a couple things we did differently. We broke that contract into 3 phases. The first phase was the site prep, because the site where we chose to build this power plant underneath was an abandoned sedimentation basin that was taken out of PVSC in 1950, but they left the infrastructure underneath. So the first contract was to remove that, and that work is done. The second contract was to procure the turbines and the major equipment, which is black start generators, pressure boosting stations, things like that. So that contract is already on its way, and in July we should have the gas turbines delivered. And the third contract is what I was talking about, is to actually build the power plant, take the purchased equipment, we'll turn it over to the contractor, and they'll build the building and put all the components together. And what we decided to do with that is to pre-qualify contractors to build that power plant. We felt that it was such a specialized facility that we would like to pre-qualify contractors. So we just did the public hearing in the last commissioners meeting. It was approved. Now we're going to advertise through public bidding the qualification criteria. Contractors are encouraged to submit their qualification criteria, and then we'll, based on their criteria, we'll qualify contractors that we feel can build this for us.
How much, just on that project alone, how much is the investment?
Total, $150 million.
And how many, once that starts moving forward, John, because again, we're pushing everything, the theme these days is Build Back New Jersey. We've been pushing that very strong, the Alliance for Action, and we need to build back in order to recover from the economic impact of the coronavirus pandemic. So when this moves forward, $150 million project, how many people, or do you have any idea how many people will be working on this job?
Well, this particular job, I don't have the quantity, but I could just tell you that for our total resiliency program, we estimate 400 people will be working on that, just the resiliency program. We built a contractors village just for the contractors to deal with the resiliency program.
Okay, let's talk about another project you spoke about briefly. You just call it the Advanced Electric 1 project, but what is that?
So if you can imagine, we're building a 34 megawatt power plant, and we need to tie that power plant into our grid system. So in order to do that, we need to upgrade our electrical switchgear and motor control centers in order for us to connect the power plant into our electrical system. And that's basically what that project is, to upgrade our switchgear, MCCs, to accept the new power plant.
Okay. Is that kind of the same issue on the phase 2 project, the Electric 2 project?
Excuse me, I'm sorry.
No, fine. I'm just wondering, you had also mentioned the Advanced Electric 2 project, and is that very similar? Is that similar to what 1 is doing, just down the road?
Exactly. It's just the second phase, same type of work. It's downstream. So the phase 1 is our main substation. Phase 2 is the lower level substations that need to be upgraded to incorporate the power plant.
And something that sounds like it's a tremendous job is, you mentioned the entire plant-wide site improvements, tearing up the facility and rebuilding. What exactly does that entail? Or I think I mentioned there are 48 buildings. Are they all coming down, or what will that be? So
what that contract involves is that we're doing major infrastructure improvements to our stormwater collection system in the plant. So if you can imagine, we're going to tear up all the roads on the 140-acre site to put new storm drainage system in. And when we do that, and build a flood wall around the perimeter, there's going to be a lot of activity. It's going to disturb all these sites on the PVSC. So rather than have each contractor fix their individual area. We would put down temporary repairs just to keep the facility operational. And then when all the construction's completed, then we would go back with a final contract and just, reseed, repave, recurb, just a cleanup type contract.
And would that one project be run by a GC, or would you have a couple of GCs for different areas of the project?
That would be run by one GC. All of our work is one GC, and then the GC would hire we have single prime contracts, and the contractor would hire their subcontractors.
And what are we talking about the investment there? How much money?
That's not that big, couple $1 million.
Oh,
Again,
okay.
that's a couple of years out. That's not that large of a project.
All right. We do have a question from Eileen Delaval, who's been a longtime friend, a longtime member of the Alliance. She's just wondering, in the future, how is the pandemic going to impact your capital plan?
It shouldn't impact our capital plan. It just, for now, right, we've been off the site for 56 days now, and we're starting to slowly bring back. Long term, I mean, we have all the protocols in place. They've been working well, as I mentioned. I don't anticipate it should slow us down unless, something else happens. We'll reevaluate and decide what we need to do moving forward. But right now, based on what I see, things are going to gear up again, and we're going to move forward.
That's terrific news. Let's take another question. Jim Longworth from Schiavone Construction. He asked if you could describe the outfall rehab.
Sure, no problem. So the outfall, we have a 5-mile outfall that leaves our facility and discharges in New York Harbor by the Statue of Liberty. There was some damage to the outfall done in the 50s. I believe one of the pipes broke, and when they put the pipe back together, the repair wasn't done as, I guess, as good as it should have been done. So we recently, part of our phase 5 upgrades, did camera inspections, sent divers out there. We found that there's an opening in the pipe that needs to be rehabilitated. So we would like to get a contractor on board, probably involves divers, to go out there and repair that leak on that outfall pipe.
Okay. We'll take another question. Adam Chadwick from Kiewit. He asks for the, in particular, talking about, again, the 34 megawatt power plant. How do you handle this, John? Do you cap the number of qualified bidders? Is there a short list? Tell us a little bit about that process.
There won't be a short list, and we will not cap the quantity of pre-qualified. So if we had 1,000 people that submitted proposals and 1,000 were qualified, then we would send the plans and specs to the 1,000 prospective bidders. That's how it would work.
Okay. Tell me a little bit about, and you and I spoke about this. I know I don't believe you have a lot of details, but I have heard new technology, particularly in light of what's going on with the coronavirus, that there are some new contact tracing systems that analyze fecal matter and other waste. Is this something the PVSC could, well, first of all, have you heard about this? And is this something that the PVSC could start doing to help battle and defeat the coronavirus pandemic?
So yes, I have heard about it, and PVSC is taking part in a study with MIT and Harvard. We're providing data, along with, I think 50% of the rest of the US is providing data to these two entities to analyze the coronavirus. That's all I know. I'm not handling that, but generally we're working with MIT and Harvard to provide data. And I believe 50% of the treatment plants across the country are doing the same thing also.
Well, that's terrific, because we're all doing our social distancing, and we're trying to be careful with wearing masks and washing our hands. But as we get those numbers down, what we're all afraid of is the numbers spiking up again later in the year, and everyone tells us that's coming. But the contact tracing will go a long way towards stopping that and driving those numbers farther and farther down. So anything we can do to, if it is possible to analyze fecal matter in order to stop the spread, that would be terrific. Let's take another question I have. I'm just moving up here. Let's see. Christian Baranko from IB Able. He said, aside from building the new power plant for treatment resiliency and major outages, what communications network options will be used to ensure connectivity? And he talked specifically, Hurricane Sandy disrupted most of all cellular and other telecom services. So how do you fight that?
Yeah, so one of our contracts that we will re-advertise shortly is contract A939. And that contract's to replace all the cabling in our facility that was damaged from Superstorm Sandy. As part of that contract, we are replacing all our fiber network in the facility and putting radio communication systems in. And we've upgraded our MIS system also because we learned a lot from Sandy. I mean, we lost all communication. So that contract will address all those issues.
We'll take another, John Marzuski. John asks, aside from building the new power plant for treatment resiliency and major outages, what communications program options will be used to ensure connectivity? Again, so I apologize. I just read that same question.
I was about to break it. Sorry, Jerry,
Yeah.
I didn't want to interrupt you, but I was about to come in there.
Yeah, thank you very much. It's my first day with these eyes. I'm sorry about that. Let's see. Now that last question was actually from John. This one is from Chris Baranko. He asks, can you speak about the voltages of the substation upgrades, particularly in the Electrical One project?
Yes, so our substation is 138,000 volts down to, our system runs from 138,000 volts down to 110 volts, and we have all the voltages in between. Pretty much that answers it all. We have 3 feeders from PSE&G, 69 kV feeders that come in, stepped up to 138,000 volts, and then they step down to 110 volts. We have it across the whole system.
Let's take well, first, before we get to the next question, again, $1 billion over the next 5 years, and for many, many years, this has been $1 billion program, at least starting from the days of Sandy, and it might have been that high before that, but every year you take another look at the capital plan and revise it, and it stayed at $1 billion as a 5-year program for the past, I'm saying, at least 5 years. Where is this money? Well, tell us how you're getting your funding.
So a lot of for the resiliency, obviously funding comes through the FEMA, and we also get it through the New Jersey Infrastructure Bank, the iBank, right? They work with PVSC, and we get a lot of our funding through the iBank. So resiliency comes through FEMA, and the iBank helps us with the majority of our capital needs.
How you mentioned, you went over the projects quickly and talked about the dollars, but how many individual projects do you have over that 5-year capital plan?
Oh, geez. I haven't counted them, but
okay.
I'd be guessing, I guess. I could.
Well,
I'm not going to sit here and count them up. Yeah, I haven't counted them.
Obviously numerous, but
yes,
but the reason why I asked that question is you went through a few of the larger ones at $150 million and a couple of other projects, but there are many, many more projects on your list. I'm just wondering if you can go through a few more because
sure.
Obviously, the larger projects are the ones that people grab the headlines, but there are other projects you're doing that are just as important to the design engineers, to the contractors, the material suppliers, the subcontractors. They're interested in all of those projects. So if you can speak a little bit more about some of the projects you'll be unfolding in the next 5 years.
Absolutely. I'll run through the list quickly. Some of them do not have contract numbers because we either have not started it or it's in the design phase. So we have the utility tunnel piping upgrade project, the F1 bypass, the primary clarifier upgrades, the oxygen production facility upgrade, the wet weather pump station facade upgrade, replacement of the wet weather pumps, rehabilitation of the Passaic meter chamber, dock rehabilitation, SCADA Phase 1 through 4 improvement project, plant-wide switchgear improvements, installation of centrifuges, oxygen tank coating upgrades, GIS implementation and development of a digital twin, and rehabilitation of our dock. That's just some of the projects.
Mhm. And then as you look down into the future, going past 5 years, talking about 6, 7, maybe even 10 years, how do you go about developing future capital plan initiatives?
Yeah, so PVSC has a capital planning committee, and what we do is we meet on a yearly basis and we review the current and future needs of PVSC. And if anybody knows anything about wastewater treatment plants, they're very equipment intensive facilities. So although we plan 5 years, every year we have to review this because the priorities change. The plant is 40 years old, the equipment is old, so a lot of this has to be upgraded. So we meet on a yearly basis, the committee, we review our priorities and develop our plan based on the priorities. That's how we do it.
Okay. Well, again, if our viewers have any more questions, please send them in now. Oops, excuse me. Please send them in now. We'll be happy to read them to John. John's been terrific answering everything we have so far. When you look at the PVSC as an entity, John, the amount of work that you've done, again, for I think it's 1.5 million customers in those counties in North Jersey that I've talked about. Tell us a little bit about the liquid waste program that you're pushing, that you run, that cleans from Maine all the way down to Virginia.
Yes, so that's quite a successful program that we run. I believe it brings in around $30 million to PVSC on a yearly basis. We get over 200 trucks in a day that have waste from the whole eastern seaboard. We also receive barges from different New York City DEP down in Virginia, and it's quite a large business, and it's important to New Jersey, I'd say, as a whole, because we do have to get rid of this waste somewhere, and PVSC accepts that waste, and it's a win-win for the community and a win for PVSC.
Absolutely. Speaking again, because you are in North Jersey, and North Jersey is one of the most densely populated areas, well, obviously in New Jersey, and New Jersey being the most densely populated state in the nation, you've got a lot of people in your region, and the numbers are growing. How do you adapt, and how do you grow with the population increases?
Well, that's part of our planning, right? So we have to always look at our population and determine how we need to do upgrades to adjust for that population. And that's a real problem that always has to be addressed. We have to do that constantly.
Okay. Let's talk a little bit more about the actual plan itself. You mentioned a long list of projects. How do you determine the impact or the importance, or that's not the words I'm looking for, but the number when you should move forward on this project or we should move forward on that project? How do you decide? Even though you have $1 billion, it's limited funds, because if you wanted to do everything, it would cost you even more than $1 billion. How do you figure out which projects you're going to move forward on and which ones are going to wait?
So as part of our capital planning committee, we prioritize all of our projects and assign a number, 1 through 5. And depending on the priority, that's what we move forward. And you're right, we can't start all projects at once. It's just impossible, or we don't have enough real estate to accommodate all the construction activities. We're struggling with that right now. So, we have a tight, compact facility, and we're trying to accommodate all this construction at once. It's quite challenging, actually. There's a lot of phasing that we have to do.
I would think so, and it's determining which project is going to happen next, or which project is more important. I guess it's a question of who you're speaking with at the time. But we do have, and I'm having a little problem reading the question, so I'm going to ask Chris Hartman to come in Chris has at least one or two more questions from the audience. Chris, if you can ask the question, please.
Yeah, there's two. One is actually a very nice comment from Eileen. John, she wanted to send a thank you for including Newark-based firms in your work. She really appreciates it, so wanted to send a thank you. Aaron from Dewberry wanted to know, is at any time the 5-year capital plan available online or by request to the PVSC to send out to folks?
Well, we really don't, it's not online, and we do not distribute it only because it's a living document, as Jerry mentioned. It's constantly being changed. So it wouldn't be fair to share. The priorities change, the capital plan change. So if we gave it out to everybody, it wouldn't be accurate, and it wouldn't serve any purpose to hand it out to people. I'm willing to discuss the capital plan with people, that's not a problem, but to hand a document out, it wouldn't serve anybody because it's a living, breathing document that changes continuously.
And I do want to point out, I'm sorry to step on you, but I do want to point out, John, that John had mentioned at the beginning of this program and in past to both Chris and I that since the PVSC and the Alliance have really developed a close relationship, and John has spoken at a number of our events over the past several years. Because of that, John tells us that the number of organizations bidding and the quality of those bids has gone up quite a bit. Is that true, John?
That is 100% true, and that's why we're speaking today. Yeah. It's been very positive, both for, I hope, the Alliance and definitely for PVSC. We're getting better contractors, more competitive pricing, better consultants, and there's much more interest in PVSC since I've been, collaborating with the Alliance. Definitely.
Well, it's been a tremendous benefit for the Alliance for Action and all of our members. Sometimes organizations have a hard time knowing what's coming up next. Our idea and the focus of the Alliance is not only to develop the opportunities in getting funding and getting permits for the projects, but also getting the knowledge of what projects are coming up. It's very important to us to get that out to our members. So the fact that you've been participating with us so many times in the past few years, I'm glad to hear has been a benefit for the PVSC, but it's absolutely been a benefit for our members. So I want to thank you. I do think we have another question here. I'll go back to Kevin O'Keefe. Says, John, what do you attribute the better bid? Well, part of this, Kev, we just answered. The better bids coming in from the industry is because of the communication that John and the PVSC are doing in order to get the word out. But John, if you could talk a little bit more, is it also the higher volume of work contributing to this, the number of better bids and the number of bids, or is there some other trend?
I think it's a little bit of everything. So yes, we have more work, but if people don't know about the work, we won't have the competition. So it's a little bit of everything. We have more work, yes, and we do have more, I'll say, PR to let people know that the work is out there. And I look at the pre-bid sign-in sheets, and on the, it's a significant amount of contractors coming into the pre-bid jobs, which I like seeing. That's good. That's very good.
Well, that's great. That's terrific. I want to thank John for your time today. Again, it's been a tremendous partnership working with the Alliance for Action, the Alliance for Action working with the PVSC. You've become a close partner of the Alliance over the past several years. Anything that we and our membership can do to help you move forward on your capital program, not only now, but as we said, we move into next year, you'll have another year added on to your 5-year program. So anything that we can do from now and into the future to help move forward and progress, obviously we would like to do. So I want to say, before we wrap up, I want to say one more time, thank you to our sponsors, AECOM, Imagine It Delivered. Let me see, I'll get the other, Penny, if you can bring up the other sponsors right now. You have Passaic, you have Kiewit, Mass, there we go, Passaic, We Know How, and Kiewit, Mass Electric Construction Company, and also JET. I want to thank those sponsors for being a part of today's program. I do want to say a real big thank you to Chris Hartman and to Lynn Schwalge and to Penny Grasso for making sure everything runs smoothly today. If you have any more questions, please send them in to us and we'll make sure to forward those on to John, and John will be able to get back. John, if people will have additional questions, should they email you directly, or would you like the emails to come into us? How would you like to handle that?
Yeah, if you could field the emails, that's fine.
Yeah.
If you could imagine, I get hundreds of emails a day.
I'm sure of that. Yeah,
I'd rather keep contractors busy than answer emails all day.
Absolutely understood. I just wanted to make sure. So again, thank you to Chris, thank you to Penny, thank you to Lynn, thank you very much, John, being a part of our program here today. We're looking forward to seeing everyone on Wednesday's webinar, where we will be speaking with Cheryl Norton, who is the president of New Jersey American Water. So we'll be doing another water program on Wednesday. Until then, have a great day. I'm Jerry Keenan, the Executive Vice President of the New Jersey Alliance for Action. Have a great day.
Thank you.